Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, including books. Today's video, you might think, is this an episode of Legends of the Hidden Temple that I've stumbled upon? No, guys. Oh, no. This is a freaking epic Readathon and Watchathon, and you might even call it a Nostalgiathon announcement video. I will be telling you guys all about my freaking huge event coming up in April, and that is Old School April. So strap in, grab a nice beverage, or maybe a nostalgic snack like maybe an Airhead. You want to grab an Airhead? Or maybe you want some Dunkaroos, or if you'd like a modern snack, that's fine too, but this might be a long video, so just, settle in, because we've got a lot of awesome details and prompts to go through. So let's go to the short intro so we can come back and get into all the fun. Do you have it? Welcome back, guys. By the way, that is the theme song to Guts, not to Legends of the Hidden Temple, so I don't know why I chose to come back with that tune, but hey, it's very catchy. Legends of the Hidden Temple, some great nostalgic freaking feelings come up when I think of that show. And when I think about 90s in general, but also 80s. Even though I was born in 89, the 80s still hold a special place in my heart. And I even like a lot of movies and a lot of shows from the 70s too. So I'm not hating on the 70s and pre-80s or anything like that. This event celebrates anything that is old school. And just for the sake of this event, we are defining old school as anything from 2003 and earlier. And so that is anything that is at least 20 years old or older. So if you're looking for an exact year, 2003 and before, and you can watch and read anything before then, but there's also a lot of ways you could read and watch modern things that have a retro or old school flair or just fit the prompts. So before I jump the gun and go into all of that, let's get into some of the details. And just so you guys know, just so you get extra hyped, do we have printables? Yes, we've got printables, and I will go through the printables with you. Do we have bingo boards? Yeah. We got them, bitch! We got the bingo boards! Do we have freaking a custom, special, official Instagram? Yeah, we do. Do we have a Discord? Yes. Are we gonna do watch parties? Yes! Are we gonna have other badass events? Yes! It's going to be a wave of nostalgia from the 90s, from the 80s, from the 70s. It's going to be freaking awesome. Get ready. All right, so the first thing you got to do, guys, if you want to participate, again, not everything is about watching and reading old stuff. Stuff could just have an older flair, and we'll explain that later. But the very, very first thing you have to do is you have to pick a team. Do you have to be familiar with the show Legends of the Hidden Temple, even though that is the show we're basing the essential look and theme of this Readathon and Watchathon on? No, you do not have to be familiar with Legends of the Hidden Temple at all. You could have not watched a second of it. It doesn't matter. Literally, we're just using the same teams from the show. That's essentially the only thing we're stealing right from Legends of the Hidden Temple. Okay, so this is technically the second year that I'm hosting Old School April. However, there are a few big differences. Mainly, as I mentioned, this is a team event this year. Last year, the first year of Old School April, it was not a team event. This year, there are bonus prompts. There were not bonus prompts last year. This year, I have co-hosts. Last year, I did not. But first, let me just give you a little bit of background. Old School April started last year as kind of a way for me to do a nostalgic-based and old-school-based readathon that was similar to the event I started in 2021, which was Nostalgic November. I also did that readathon last year, too. That one, the prompts are based on nostalgia, but you could read literally anything. Old School April, when I started it last year, I wanted people just to read old things and watch old things from 2002 and earlier, as of last year. And this year I decided I want to make it a little bit different, almost combining the themes of Nostalgic November, because I'm not going to be doing that again, with the themes of Old School April. So I'm kind of merging the events into one to make it even more epic and also more versatile and easier for people to bend the prompts to read newer books but also older books if they want. So you'll see what I mean when we start going through the prompts, but first things first, as I said, you pick your team, and you don't have to be familiar with these teams. If you just want to base what team you want to be on off of your favorite color out of the 3, that is fine. The 3 teams we are using for this Readathon and Watchathon are Blue Barracudas. That's me. I am on the Blue Barracudas officially, and I've got a little chant for my team, so like our little taunt I think will be Blue Barracudas. That's the Barracuda eating ya, so watch out. Anyway, the other teams are Silver Snakes as well as Purple Parrots, and we'll talk about which hosts are on which team in a second. So why are you on teams? Essentially, you earn points, aka pendants. That's what we're calling the points, essentially. 1 temple pendant equals 1 point. I printed out these pendants, but you're not going to be earning physical pendants. You're just going to be earning technically points. We're going to call them pendants. I made these. The actual pendant from the show looks a little bit like this, but bigger. So that's what the actual pendant looked like back in the day, but I made my own pendants, of course, because it's an epic event and I had to get custom stuff made. So the way you earn points is by completing readathon prompts, watchathon prompts, and bonus prompts throughout the entire month of April. The Discord or our official Instagram is where you'll share pictures and videos to prove you've completed the prompts, and the Discord is where the official tally of pendants for each team will be kept. And that is why it is important that you guys pick a team. If you don't have any preference, let us know, and we could just assign you a team that may need some more members. You know, we don't want it to be too uneven. So if you don't have a preference, let us know. But if you do have a preference, make sure you always state your team when you're sharing your proof on the Discord. Another way to share proof, if you don't like Discord and you don't use Discord or have Discord, you can just DM or message your proof to our official Instagram account, which is at Old School April. That is our official account. Please follow us. I will have it linked below. So yes, you can tag us in your stories, you can tag us in your posts and use the hashtags, but to officially have your proof recorded as a point and to have that point go towards your team to help your team maybe make it to the finals, which we'll talk about in a second, you must message on Instagram to have it counted that way. Otherwise, share everything on Discord. We have on the Discord descriptions of where to share it. We've got a particular channel that's just for sharing proof, and you'll have to specify what team you're on whenever you share any proof, whether that's on Instagram or on Discord. But yes, there are official instructions on how to share on Discord on the Discord, and I'm telling you the instructions on how to share it by DMing us on Instagram. Pick whichever, choose one or the other. It's up to you what your preference is for sharing your proof, and that is how you officially earn pendants/points for your actual team. Why do the points matter? What do the points get you? Well, guys, on Saturday, April 29th, we're going to have a big Slumber Party live stream where some of the hosts from the 2 teams with the highest number of temple pendants/points will compete in a head-to-head battle to see which team comes on top. The quote head-to-head battle will contain scavenger hunt things to do. It will contain 70s, 80s, 90s trivia questions. So it'll be a mix of different activities for about an hour, hour and a half to determine which team comes out on top, to have the bragging rights to be the ultimate champions of Old School April. So only one team will come out as the champions of Old School April. So everything you do in the month is all towards earning your team points so that they could possibly make it to the Slumber Party final and then compete to possibly be the champions of Old School April. So that is the official idea behind this team event. However, if you just want to have fun, that's okay too, and just participate just cause that's also awesome. But I think it's a little bit more fun that it's a team activity, that we can earn points for our team and we could display our team pride like Blue Barracudas, let's go! It's going to be so much fun. But this event is made to be very, very flexible. And by the way, at the sleepover, a small part of the sleepover will be this head-to-head battle between the 2 teams with the most pendants, but other parts of the sleepover, slumber party, whatever you want to call it, will have other activities. Like we will do some sprinting that day on Saturday, the 29th. We will have some fun, like some other random games like Cards Against Humanity. We might even do some prank calls. We might have some snacks together. We might have some activity hours where we all color 90s coloring pages, similar to how we had this big Christmas Evil party. If any of you guys joined us for that readathon, we will have similar activities at the big slumber party closeout bash. There will also be a official closing ceremony on Sunday, April 30th, the last day of the month, and that'll be very low-key. We'll be doing some sprinting. We'll be just chilling because we'll all probably be dead from the slumber party the night before, which I'm planning to go most of the day and into very late at night. As I said, guys, this event was designed to be very flexible. So yes, you earn pendants by completing prompts, but what prompts you do is up to you. So essentially, you can just do readathon prompts, you could just do watchathon prompts, you could do as many prompts as you want, you could do as few prompts as you want. You don't even have to do any of the bonus prompts, you could do all of the bonus prompts. You could do one or a few of the bonus prompts. It literally doesn't matter. It is up to you how much or how little you want to do. And again, it's designed just so that it's fun and not overwhelming. Don't go crazy, don't go ham, and don't get stressed about it. It's all for fun. It's supposed to be a good time, you know? And if you're looking for thematic photo prompts, we've got you covered because we are partnering with the wonderful April over on Instagram. Her account is @AppleandAlchemy, and last year she had the big 6 Sad April event on Instagram, which had 30 prompts for the entire month. She's doing it again, and she's our official Instagram partner. So that will be the photo prompts. If you're looking for photo prompts, we are working with April, and we are going to be participating in her 6 Sad April event, and all of her prompts are based on the 90s. So it perfectly fits with our old school Readathon Watchathon event. So yes, if you're looking for Instagram stuff to do, specific prompts, April has you covered, and she is also going to be joining us and doing a lot of events with us as well. And this is how you could read and watch newer things, by the way. For the Readathon or the Watchathon or both, you can watch and or read anything you want as long as the book, movie, or show fits the prompt, or if the book, movie, or show was released in 2003 or earlier, or if it is a book that is set in 2003 or earlier, or if the book, movie, or show has some sort of old school vibe. An example of this is a nonfiction book that is about something from the past, whether that be an actor, a show, a decade, etc., etc. Or the book just has an old school looking cover. Guess what? If it's a newer book, but it looks like it has an old school cover, you could still count that. You could make it work. Can you double dip? Yeah, you can double dip, you can triple dip. And guess what? You get a pendant per every prompt you complete. So if you use one book for multiple prompts, well, guess what? You get multiple points / pendants, even though you just read one book. Because, in my opinion, you should be rewarded. It does take creativity to make a book fit for multiple prompts, or a show or a movie fit for multiple prompts. So you should get a pendant per prompt you were able to fill or complete. So yes, even if you have one book, basically using that for 3 or 4 prompts, well then you will earn 3 or 4 pendants because you completed that many prompts, if that makes sense. If you have any questions, you can message me on Instagram @SuperKickingIt. You can message the official Old School April account, or you can message us on our official Discord. Again, all of that is linked below. You can read horror, you can read non-horror. A lot of the prompts aren't specific whether or not you have to read horror, so you do what you want. For the Readathon, there are 9 main prompts, but there's actually a 10th bonus prompt that you could use either as a bonus or a replacement. So if one of the prompts on the Readathon bingo board you don't like, use that 10th prompt to replace one of the ones you don't want to do. Or do all 9 and do the 10th one. It's all up to you. Just try to get tic-tac-toe if you want and do 3 in a row. Do 1 prompt and it counts as participating. It doesn't matter, like I said. The involvement level is all about you guys and what you're comfortable with. Alright, before we get into the actual prompts, let me go through with you guys the hosts. So, your team, Blue Barracudas, the hosts that are a part of that team are me, of course, from Slime and Slashers, Alex from the channel The Bookubus, Elizabeth from the channel Elizabeth Sagewood, and Andrew from It Came From The Page. I'm really pumped about my freaking co-hosts who are with me on the Blue Barracuda team. Alright, now, next up, you've got Team Silver Snakes, and who's on that team is Kat from Kat's Novel Adventures, Sarah from the channel Thrills and Kills BookTube, and April, again, she is on Instagram @AppleandAlchemy. Next up, Purple Parrots, and my co-hosts who are on that team include Katrina, over from the channel Katrina Brown, Amy from the channel Amy Noel Reads, and Kelly over at the channel Kelly Hooked on Books. I love all my co-hosts. I know I have a freaking boatload of them, but I put out the call for people who are interested. I said, anyone who's interested in co-hosting, and I got a lot of people who responded, and so I'm so jazzed that all of these friends want to be involved because I love so many of these people, and it doesn't matter if they're on a different team, I still love them. But when it comes down to earning pendants, I'm going against them. I'm gonna be brutal. I'm not gonna hold back, but we're still gonna have fun. So as I said, our official Instagram page, just to repeat that again, at Old School April. Then we also have official hashtags. We've got 2. One is hashtag Old School April 23, which would stand for 2023, of course, and the other is Old School April. Also, we've got a Google Drive assets folder that has tons of Instagram graphics, especially story graphics, and we've got team-specific graphics. So, like, if you want to share what you're reading and you're on Blue Barracudas, we've got a Blue Barracudas Instagram story template graphic for you to use. So all of that is in the folder linked below. We also have the rules document and the details document linked below. We also have the printables linked below. Everything you could ever need is linked below, including the list of prompts, and all of that is also listed on our Discord. Now, this is not a recommendation video. I will have a very in-depth recommendation video later as we get closer to April. I will also have a separate TBR video as we get closer to April, so you can see what I'm planning to read, how I interpreted the prompts. Again, be as loose or as strict with the interpretation of the prompts, whether that be a Readathon prompt or a Watchathon prompt. Kind of interpret it the way you want in terms of how closely you follow it, what you want to put as a book or movie to fulfill that prompt, and so on and so forth. Alright, so here we go. Each Readathon prompt completed earns you a point, or aka a temple pendant. These are officially called pendants of life on the show, but I'm calling them temple pendants. Alright, so the first Readathon prompt. Read any Goosebumps book, or read a book that fits the theme or vibe of an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Alright, for this one, it's super simple. Read a Goosebumps, any Goosebumps. Publishing year doesn't matter. Goosebumps itself, the actual freaking brand, is nostalgic. So literally, even a new Goosebumps, I'd say, you can be loose with the interpretation and count it. Or read a super old Goosebumps book. It doesn't matter. Or, if you're not feeling Goosebumps, that's fine. Read any book from any year that fits the vibe of an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. I have a list linked below of all the Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes and a mini synopsis of each episode. So if you have no idea about a book that fits the vibe of an episode, literally I'll have a list of episodes below and you can kind of figure it out from there. But here are some examples if you still need more help. So there's an episode called The Tale of Laughing in the Dark, which has a clown in it. It also has a carnival in it. So read any book featuring a clown. Any book from any year featuring a carnival. There are so many. Something Wicked This Way Comes. Friggin', you could read a brand new book that features a clown. I know part of the Small Spaces series, that has a book that has a clown on the cover. It's not the first book in the series. I think it's like the 3rd book or 4th book in the series that has a clown on the cover. That would count. It doesn't matter. There's an episode called The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner. That is about comic books, so you could just read a comic book and it would fulfill this prompt. The Tale of the Bookish Babysitter. That is kind of about how a kid gets absorbed into the story he's reading, so read a book about books, or a book, featuring a library. The Tale of the Dead Man's Float, that takes place in a pool, like at a school, so read a book featuring a pool, or any kind of water, that would work too. The Tale of the Twisted Claw, that's a Halloween-themed episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark, so read any Halloween-themed book, or autumn-themed book. The Tale of the Pinball Wizard, that takes place at an abandoned mall. Read any book featuring arcades or malls. There are modern books featuring arcades, one specifically by Adam Caesar, The Tale of the 13th Floor. Read a book with the number 13 or the word 13 in the title. See how loose or specific you can be. You could be so loose or very, very specific. You could make up the rules. Almost anything would work. And if you don't like any of these ideas, look at that list I told you about and look at the synopses of the episodes and kind of, pick out something to read that would fit anything. There are plenty of episodes about vampires, so you could read a book about vampires. The options really are very, very vast. So, for instance, The Tale of the Midnight Madness, that has to do with a movie theater and a vampire, so you could literally read a book that takes place at a movie theater, a book that mentions a movie in the book itself, or a book that features vampires, as I said. That would work too, because the episode features vampires. There's episodes that feature werewolves, so read a book about werewolves. See how easy it is to match a book with literally a very loose vibe or theme from an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode? Super simple, so don't be confused or scared about that one. And if you don't want to deal with it, just read a Goosebumps. Alright, Readathon Prompt 2. Read any horror book published or set in the 80s. Or read any middle grade book or YA book published or set in the 80s. Or a new book with an 80s flair. So that's 3 different things you could use to fill this prompt. So you can be as strict or as loose with your interpretations. It should be super simple. There are plenty of books that are modern that are set in the 80s. For instance, My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix would fit. Also, if you want to read a middle grade or YA book published in the 80s, there are plenty to choose from. There are lots of Babysitter Club books. It started in the 80s and went into the 90s. There are some point horror books that were published in the 80s. And of course, if you choose the horror route, there are tons of vintage horror paperback from hell books. If you don't want to read horror, just read any 80s book. I'm fine if you want to eliminate that from the prompt. Again, I want you guys to be happy and have fun with these prompts. Alright, Readathon Prompt 3, read an animal attack book. The publishing year does not matter. Read any animal attack book. It can be a new book like The Roo by Alan Baxter that literally has like a vintage looking cover and it's a lot of fun. Or it could be something that is actually vintage and old school, like Hellhound by Ken Greenhall, which, by the way, is Kelly, one of my co-hosts, her book club pick for the month of April, so it fits perfectly. So if you want to join in for her book club, then you can read Hellhound by Ken Greenhall, which is one of my favorite all-time animal attack books. It is so brutal. It's not your typical kind of spacey, very trashy animal attack. It's got more to it. It's a lot more serious and drama-filled than other animal attack books. Readathon Prompt 4, Nostalgic Technology. Read a book featuring older technology on the cover or in the story. Some older technology examples include cassettes, arcades, VHS tapes, Walkmans, radios, Polaroid pictures, a typewriter. Literally, the publishing year of the book does not matter. Doesn't matter when it came out. You could read a brand new 2023 release that has some kind of old technology featured in the story or old technology shown on the cover. Just to give you guys some quick examples, again, I'm going to do a full recommendation video, but just to give you an idea, the book The Ring would work for this because in the story we've got an old school VHS tape that plays a large role in the story itself. The book I mentioned earlier, featuring arcades by Adam Caesar, is this, 0 Lives Remaining. You could see this arcade machine here. It almost looks like a Pac-Man machine, but it's blurred out by the title. And so this would count as old technology on the cover. You don't hardly see arcades anymore, so to me that's vintage. And this book looks like an old school VHS. This is a collection of short stories by Janine Pipe. This is Twisted, Tainted Tales, and you can just see how the cover itself looks like a VHS cover, and that counts as old technology in my opinion. There are plenty of other examples. I've got a recommendation document that I can link on my recommendation video that I will release in a week or two, and you guys can see more than what I just mentioned, and again, I will verbally talk about more in that other video too. Readathon Prompt number 5, a mood read, and this could be any book published in or set in 2003 or earlier, or a book with a retro vibe. So if you're going for reading a modern book with a retro vibe, then the publishing year does not matter. So for instance, here's a book that was set in the 90s. This could be your mood read, and there's also a prompt about reading a book from the 90s or set in the 90s, and this could count for that too. So the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, a brand new collection of stories would work for a vintage vibe, but it's a modern book. This is a 90s themed collection of short horror stories called That's What I Call Horror, an anthology of 90s horror, edited by Chelsea Pumpkins, and this is awesome. I freaking am so glad I got a physical copy because I pre-ordered it and it came with cool little stickers that are so nostalgic looking and awesome. Another example, and this is a book set in the 80s, this is Disco Death Trap, so this would work for either the 80s prompt that I mentioned earlier about reading a book set in the 80s, or for this mood read about reading a book set before 2003, or just a book with a vintage vibe. This screams vintage and it's set in 80s. And here are some modern books that are not set in the 90s or 80s but have a vintage retro flair, and a lot of these are nonfiction. So let me just give you an example of how you can interpret the prompt in different ways. That Totally Sweet 90s, a nonfiction book about the 90s, but it was released not too long ago. a book about Seinfeld. This would work because Seinfeld is a great, wonderful, old school 90s show. So if you want to learn more about Seinfeld, Seinfeldia would be a great choice for this mood read. Chris Farley's Show, another awesome nonfiction book. This is about Chris Farley's life, and of course he's an actor that graced our screens and graced movies from the 80s and 90s, and so this would totally count as a modern book with an old school flair. Paperbacks from Hell by Grady Hendrix could fit for this prompt. Again, it's a newer nonfiction book about something old school. In the same vein as Paperbacks from Hell, we've got Paperback Crush, about 80s and 90s teen fiction. This would totally fit for the mood read or for the 80s, 90s read a YA middle grade book prompt. Happy Clouds, Happy Trees, a book about Bob Ross. Bob Ross is definitely old school, so this is a nonfiction book about Bob Ross, so this totally counts. The Tao of Bill Murray, one of my favorite actors, and of course, Bill Murray's still around, but you do associate him with some great classic movies, so to me, this totally has a retro, nostalgic vibe. Even though it's a modern book, it's still about somebody who screams nostalgia when you see him today and think of him today. And here is a book that would fit the mood read. I don't think it's officially set in the 90s, but it definitely has a 90s style. This is The Babysitter's Coven, so whether or not it's set in the 90s, because the cover alone has this 90s freaking flair to it, I say this counts as a modern book with a retro flair, just from the cover alone. So if you want to base retro flair off of what a cover looks like, that is fine with me. Again, I want you guys to be able to read what you actually want to read, and I know not everyone loves to read old school books or nonfiction, etc., etc. So this is a way to bend the prompt to fit in what you kind of want to do. Next, prompt number 6, read a Fear Street book or a point horror book or a Christopher Pike book. This is so easy. Read any of those books, any point horror, any Fear Street, or any Christopher Pike. There are so many of each, and I've got a recommendation doc that I will again link when I release my recommendation video that has complete lists of all of those books. So I will have you covered with official lists so you could see the entire amount of choices you have for each of those books, depending on what you want to go for. Next up, prompt number 7. This is based off of Teen Witch. Read a book with magic, magical elements, magical items, wizards, sorcerers, witches, cursed objects, or occult or supernatural elements. Publishing year for this prompt does not matter. I'm trying to make the publishing year not really technically matter for any of these, but some you gotta read an old book like the Fear Street, Point Horror, Christopher Pike prompt. You can't really read a modern book to fit that prompt, but this one you can. The Teen Witch prompt will work for any book. There are so many books about witches, both freaking new and old. For instance, Come Closer would work for like a supernatural element. I just read that book and really loved it. That is a modern book about possession that would totally fit. But again, you don't have to read a new book. You can read an old school book, and it doesn't have to be adult. It can be kids or adult. So whatever you want to do. If you want to go the kid route, you could read The Witches by Ronald Dahl. Next prompt, prompt number 8, read any horror book published in or set in the 90s, or read a middle grade or YA book published in or set in the 90s. And again, if you want to interpret this as a modern book that has a 90s flair, that is fine too. Do that instead. Again, I gave you some examples, like for instance, this Babysitter's Club book. It is not technically set in the 90s, I don't think, unless I'm wrong. It doesn't say it is on the back, but the cover has a 90s flair, so you could technically use this for prompt number 8. Or you could just read a newer book like Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires that is officially set in the 90s, like that one is. Or just read a book that was actually published in the 90s. Tons of Paperbacks from Hell were published in the 90s. Tons of regular, just general books were published in the 90s. Literally any 90s book would work. Next up, prompt number 9, and this is based off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think this is a staple, nostalgic show, freaking awesome, and also the movie is great too. So this is read a story or book with a female protagonist, or a book or story written by a woman. The publishing year does not matter. There are so many fantastic examples. Literally pick out any book that was written by a woman and you will have this prompt completed. Or you can read a book written by a man, but with a main character that's a woman. Or you can read a book written by a woman with a woman main character. Literally doesn't matter. interpret it and fit it the way you want. Last but not least, the bonus prompt / replacement prompt that I told you about. Use this to replace any other prompt if desired, or read it in addition to any other prompt if desired. So this says, read a book with neon on the cover. Publishing year doesn't matter. The Ring would work. That has a neon pink cover. Meddling Kids, which has a very, very neon cover, would work. Literally anything you want that has neon on it, whether that looks like a neon actual sign or just a neon color itself. Either way would work. Alright, that's all the official Readathon prompts, so let's now get into the Watchathon prompts, because again, this is not just a Readathon, it's also a Watchathon, and also just a general nostalgia-a-thon. There's a lot of awesome activities that will be going on all month long that will really pull on your nostalgic heartstrings. And just to remind you, just like with the Readathon prompts, each prompt completed is worth a temple pendant / 1 point. So you will earn a point for your team for every prompt you complete. Even if you use one movie to complete multiple prompts, it doesn't matter. If you use Free Willy to complete 3 prompts, then you're earning 3 points / 3 pendants for your team. Go ahead, yeah! Alright, Watchathon prompt 1. Watch any Goosebumps episode. You could find Goosebumps on Netflix, so that should be pretty easy for everyone to watch. Watchathon prompt number 2. Watch any 80s horror movie. And this is so simple, there's a lot of great 80s horror movies. One that comes to mind right away is Hellraiser, which is one of my favorites. Watchathon prompt 3. Watch an episode of any 90s Nickelodeon show or movie. And this is easy too. Good Burger, Harriet the Spy, Are You Afraid of the Dark, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, Hey Arnold, flippin' Rugrats, so many old school shows. Next up, prompt number 4, watch a movie or TV show episode set in the 80s or 90s, or watch a newer adaptation of an old school movie, show, or book. There are a few examples of this. For instance, Fear Street, the movies on Netflix, you could use for this prompt because it is a newer adaptation of an old school series, aka the Fear Street book series. So that fits the prompt. Another example is Bates Motel. Of course, that is a show, but it's based on an old school movie and book. Psycho, of course, by Robert Bloch, the book, and of course directed by Alfred Hitchcock if you're talking about the movie. Both things are old school, and so you could watch the newer adaptation and it would work for this prompt. Next up, Watchathon prompt number 5, Mood Watch. Mood watch anything from 2003 or earlier. So literally anything you want, horror, non-horror, kiddish, adultish, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. As long as it's kind of old school or has an old school flair, either way would work for me. Again, I am not policing you. Nobody is policing you. The point is to have fun. If you don't want to do any prompts and you just want to read what you want, that's okay too. If you want to do one prompt and then craft your own thing, that's all right as well. All right, prompt number 6, watch an episode of any Disney Channel show or a Disney Channel original movie from the 90s or early 2000s. But nothing that was released after 2003. Alright, so I do want to make a note that if you are living outside of the US and grew up outside of the US and are not familiar with Disney Channel or Nickelodeon, you can watch the non-American equivalent. Say you have an old school kids show from the 80s or 90s that was popular in Canada or popular in the UK, then watch that instead of Nickelodeon or watch that instead of Disney. So for the Nickelodeon and Disney prompts, if you want to replace it from something thematic from your country from the 80s or 90s or even the 70s, go ahead and do that. That is fine too. I have some friends who are Canadian and some friends who are not American in terms of they were not born here, who have asked about this, and yes, of course it's okay to replace Disney Channel with something else or Nickelodeon with something else that is more nostalgic for you personally. Next up, Watchathon prompt 7, watch any 80s movie or TV show. So easy. Growing Pains come to mind as a TV show. There are so many options. Alright, here we go. Next up, prompt number 8, watch any 90s horror movie. There are plenty of 90s horror movies. In the Mouth of Madness is one, that would count. There is a whole long list. Watchathon prompt 9, and this is the final prompt. Watch any 90s movie or TV show. And again, this doesn't say horror, so this could be any 90s movie ever or any 90s TV episode ever. Guess what? Dawson's Creek, which is one of my favorite old school kind of guilty pleasure shows, that started in the late 90s. So would that count? Yes. Even though the majority of its run was in the early 2000s, it's still started in 1998. So go ahead and say you could watch Dawson's Creek, yes. In fact, I'm trying to schedule a watch party for the Dawson's Creek pilot just because I'm a nerd and want to, and I love Dawson's Creek. So just to recap quickly, any Readathon or Watchathon prompt completed earns you a point, aka 1 temple pendant for your team. Same thing here with the bonus prompts. Each bonus prompt completed earns you at least 1, sometimes more, points or pendants. And this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited. These are bonus. You don't have to do them. It's basically, if you want to, do as many or as few as you want. Don't do any if you don't feel like it. That's fine. This is just to give you an idea of fun, nostalgic things to do that would be super thematic and very appropriate. All right, so I'll go through with you all of the bonuses. There are 20 here. So the first one, read any host recommendation from this list. 1 pendant per book completed. So there's a potential to get an additional 10 or 11 pendants. I can't remember how many total there are. I'll go through with you the book recs here. And a lot of these can also fit for the Readathon prompts, in which case you could earn multiple pendants. You could earn 1 for fulfilling the bonus prompt, but also the Readathon prompt if you use it for both. All right, Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin is Kelly's rec. My rec is Nelfs by Sydney Williams because it's ridiculous. You can find that on Kindle for like $2. It was a lot of fun. You can also find it on audiobook. Amy's recommendation is Drawing Blood by Poppy Z. Bright. Kat's recommendation is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. That is a newer book that has an old school flair. Even though it's set in the future, it still has a lot of nostalgia in it. Andrew recommends Planet X by Michael Jane Friedman, and this book is a mashup of X-Men and Star Trek TNG, so what's more nostalgic than that? Honestly, nothing. It's amazing. Katrina's suggestion is a newer book, and her book is The Worm and His Kings by Haley Piper. That is set in the 90s, and that would work. Elizabeth suggested Witch by Christopher Pike, and that is definitely old school, and that could work for the Readathon prompt that said to read a Fear Street, Christopher Pike, or a point horror book. Alex suggested April Fools by Richie Tankersley Cusick. That would work as a point horror book, so that would count for that prompt as well if you wanted to double dip and do it as a bonus for this, but also use it on your official board too. Or you could use these as reads in addition to whatever you use to fill out your board. It's up to you. Sarah suggests The Elementals by Michael McDowell. April suggests It Came from the Multiplex, 80s Midnight Chillers by Joshua Viola. That's a collection of stories. That would work too. The cover is so vintage looking, it's awesome, but it's a more modern book. Alright, so that is the first bonus prompt, and again, there's a potential to get multiple pendants if you read multiple books off of that list. And if you double dip and use it for your actual Readathon prompts on the bingo board, you can even earn more pendants. Bonus prompt number 2, watch any host recommendation from this list. 1 pendant per movie watched. You have a chance to freaking earn tons of points if you watch a lot of these. Alright, so Kelly wants to recommend Night of the Creeps from 1986 and the movie Clue from 1985. We do have a Clue watch party on our Discord that is already scheduled. I am going to recommend In the Mouth of Madness from 1994, and Free Willy, of course, because I am obsessed with Free Willy, and it's a whole big thing, but I will take any opportunity to watch Free Willy and to also talk about Free Willy. Do I have a 2+ hour stream on my channel right now all about Free Willy and orcas? Yes! I will link it below if you care. I know most people don't care, but if you love Free Willy, you might want to check it out, because I love Free Willy. Alright, so Amy suggests Little Shop of Horrors from 1986 and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids from 1989. And both of those star Rick Moranis, and we are having a Rick Moranis special double feature watch party in April. It's already scheduled. Kat suggested The Lost Boys from 1987 and The Breakfast Club from 1985. Andrew suggests The Crater Lake Monster from 1977 and RoboCop 2 from 1990. Classic Andrew. It's awesome. Katrina suggested Killer Clowns from Outer Space from 1988 and Tammy and the T-Rex from 1994. Elizabeth suggested Troop Beverly Hills from 1989. I rewatched that last year for Old School April, and it's incredible. It is so cute. It is such a good time. Oh, it freaking hits all the nostalgic notes that you want. Alex, the Booktubist, suggests High Spirits from 1988 and Ghost House from 1988. Sarah suggests Scream from 1996 and Labyrinth, starring David Bowie, of course, from 1986. April suggests Army of Darkness from 1992. And that is the complete list of movie recs from all of the hosts. So you can watch multiple, you could watch none, you can watch one, it doesn't matter. But you do get a pendant per movie watched off of that list. And some of these you could use to fill out your Watchathon board. Or, like I said, as with the Readathon stuff, you can use it to fill out your board, and it would count as double. Or you can just watch these in addition to whatever you're watching that is filling in your Watchathon board. Alright, next up, number 3, bonus prompt. Participate in 6 Sad April on Instagram. That, of course, is hosted by April at Apple and Alchemy, and you get 1 pendant per every prompt completed. Now, to make sure that we know you completed the prompt, you can screen capture your Instagram post for the day and message it to us on Instagram. Be sure to tell us what team you're on, or you can send them on the Discord. Screen capture the post, send it to the Discord, say what team you're on, and we will put a checkmark emoji once it's been officially counted. Bonus prompt number 4, wear a nostalgic accessory, costume, or outfit. For example, you could wear nostalgic themed earrings, or you can wear a thematic old school shirt, pants, sweater, socks, a hat, or all of the above, or any combo of the above. It doesn't matter. Wear the accessories, wear the clothes, take a picture, send it to the Discord, or message it to the Instagram to prove that you've completed it. Tell us your team. You've earned some points. Next, eat or drink a nostalgic snack or beverage like Dunkaroos, Kool-Aid, Capri Sun, Lunchables. Doesn't matter, but you can only earn 1 pendant for this. So there's a limit on this because I encourage you to eat nostalgic snacks, but it would be so easy to be like, I just had 10 packs of Dunkaroos, so I'm going to get 10 pendants. I think that's a little unfair, so it takes no time to eat some Dunkaroos. You can only get 1 pendant for a snack. So that's a 1 pendant limit max. Just make a note of that. So another bonus prompt, watch any movie from the 70s. Andrew's recommendation, his movie, one of his movies, is from the 70s. So if you watch his movie, you get a pendant for that. And it would also count for watching any movie from the 70s. So that's 2 bonuses it would count for if you chose to watch his movie. Next, make a nostalgia-themed recipe. Do you want to make your own version of Dunkaroos? Go ahead and make it. Send us a picture on Discord or message it to our Instagram. You've earned a bonus pendant. Next up, listen to an old school song or watch an old school music video. This has a 1 pendant maximum, so basically you can listen to 200 songs, but you're only going to get credit for 1. So sorry about that, but it's too easy to listen to like 30 or 40 songs in a row. Again, if you're on Spotify, take a screen capture of the screen with the song title, send it to us on Discord, message it to us on Instagram, whichever you prefer, to prove. Say your team, and then you've earned the bonus point. You get 2 pendants for singing a verse or a chorus from any old school song, but you've got to prove that you did it with a video. So take a video of yourself, show it to us on freaking Instagram or on Discord, and then you've earned 2 pendants for that, because I think it'd be fun to hear people sing some of these old school choruses from different songs. Share a childhood picture or an old picture of yourself. I put a 1 pendant limit on this because, you know, we could go around sharing old pictures of us all day, but I really only want this to be worth 1 maximum pendant. Bonus prompt number 11. Play a game that you used to play as a kid, like, for instance, the Game of Life, Crazy Eights, Go Fish, Uno, Candyland, Chutes and Ladders, it doesn't matter. I think this is going to be so fun. You could do a whole game night, and you get a pendant per game played, and there's a 5 pendant limit. I will say, it doesn't even matter if you play against other teams. So I am having an in-person game night with Kat during the month of April, where we are going to play games, and we're both going to earn pendants for our different teams, but it's going to be fun. So even though she's on Silver Snake's team, I'm on Blue Barracudas, we're going to be playing the, games together, and we'll each be earning pendants for our different teams, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, 5 pendant maximum for this bonus per person. The next one, in honor of summer camp and ghost stories, eat a s'more. You can eat as many s'mores as you want, but you're only going to get 1 pendant. So this is worth 1 pendant. Eat a s'more. It'll be fun. Watch a movie or show starring someone you had a crush on back in the day. This was Alex's idea for a bonus prompt, and this will be fun. So you get basically a pendant per movie or show you watched that had someone you had a crush on. So that counts, and that's going to be a lot of fun to see what people say they watched. Number 14, color a nostalgic themed coloring page or build a Lego set. It could be any Lego set. It doesn't have to be nostalgic themed, but take a picture of the Lego set or take a picture of the coloring page and send it to us on Discord or on Instagram. Next up, eat an Eggo, Pop-Tart, or toaster strudel, because to me, those three things are super nostalgic when it comes to old school breakfast. So eat any of those, and that counts. If you want to be crazy and eat all three, go ahead. I guess I'll give you a pendant each. You eat an Eggo, you get a pendant. You eat a Pop-Tart, you get a pendant. You eat a toaster strudel, you get a pendant. It's fine. But if you eat 10 toaster strudels, I'm not going to give you 10 pendants. It's one pendant for a strudel max, one pendant for a Pop-Tart max, and one pendant for an Eggo max. So don't go crazy eating strudels, Pop-Tarts, and Eggos. But yeah, if you want to eat one of all three, then there you go, there's 3 pendants. Next up, attend an old school April Discord watch party. We're going to have tons. We already have tons planned. It's 1 pendant per every watch party. How you prove it is you could take a screen capture of your computer screen as you're on the Discord watching the movie, take a picture of the Discord channel with your phone, whatever, to prove you were in there for a watch party. Do that every time. Send it to us on Discord or, again, on Instagram, and that's how you prove and earn points and pendants. You know we're going to have some sprints, so if you attend any old school April official sprint, then you earn a pendant per sprint you attend. So go ahead, attend as many sprints as you want, and you'll be earning pendants per every sprint you attend. In honor of those Saturday mornings gone by, watch a cartoon is the next bonus prompt. This could be any old school cartoon that calls to you, that makes you feel nostalgic, it doesn't matter. We are officially going to have Discord watch parties every single Saturday morning with Saturday morning cartoons on our official old school April Discord. So stay tuned, we'll have a calendar of events. It's a Google Calendar with all of the watch parties listed, so check out which ones you want to go to. We'll have some Nickelodeon ones, we'll have some Disney ones, lots of good stuff. Tailspin, freaking gargoyles, all kinds of things. Next bonus prompt, do some nostalgic themed crafting, and this could be any kind of crafting you want. Journaling, crocheting, scrapbooking, tie-dye a t-shirt, that counts as a craft to me. Make a friendship bracelet. How old school and fun is that? You know, you could do anything you want. Cross-stitch, yeah, go ahead. Especially because you could do patterns if you cross-stitch. You could even decide to make your own team t-shirt with like stencils, fabric paint, iron-on designs that you could print out stuff on special paper and iron it onto a t-shirt. So just even altering clothes would count as crafting to me. Anything you want to do it. It's crafting, it's thematic, it's fun. And again, coloring is a separate bonus prompt, so I would say almost anything but coloring or building Legos would count as crafting. So since that's a separate thing, do that separately, and any other craft would count for this one. Alright, and last but not least, I think it's actually last but best, build a pillow or blanket fort and take a picture inside it. So I actually might set one up for like video filming or sprinting or something. A pillow fort would be a lot of fun. I used to love building pillow forts and blanket forts as a kid. It was like a staple of sleepover parties. We always built one. So yeah, and again, I kind of told you guys this, but just to reiterate, we do have a printable for everything. We've got a bingo board for the Watchathon and the Readathon prompts. So yes, these are printables for those, but we also have official bingo boards for Instagram. And even though we don't have a bingo board for the bonus prompts, we do have a printable, and look how nice it looks. It looks so nice and old school. So if you want to print it out and literally keep track physically and mark on this when you completed a bonus prompt, go ahead. Same thing here. You could just cross out, or you could write, or you can, you know, edit it on your computer and put the picture of the book or show you're watching and print it out after you know, edit it on your computer, or you could just write on it after you print it out. Do it whatever way you want. All these printables are linked below, as are the bingo boards, as are all the other graphics, as are all the other details and rules, and the Discord, and the Instagram, and all my co-hosts. Thank you so much to my co-hosts, by the way, for being so gung-ho. I have been messaging these people since, like, the beginning of January about this event. I have been blowing up their phones, because we've got an Instagram group chat. I have been driving them crazy, so thank you guys for freaking putting up with me, and for being as excited and as into this as me, because it means so much to me. We've been sharing photos, we've been just like having a ball, like talking about nostalgic stuff and just planning this event together and coming up with ideas. So I'm so thankful for all of my co-hosts. Each and every one of them rule. If you're not subscribed, or if you're not following any of them, please follow them all on Instagram and on YouTube. Now, April only has an Instagram. She doesn't have an official YouTube channel, but please check out her Instagram for sure. Everyone else does have a YouTube channel in addition to their Instagram, so make sure you follow them both places, on YouTube and on Instagram. All right, guys, what team are you choosing? What team are you gonna be on? Again, you don't have to be familiar with the flippin' show. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a 90s kid to do this. You could be an 80s kid. You could be a 70s kid. The teams are just a way to keep score, to have a little competition in there, to make it a little bit different and more epic than last year. So yeah, it's just about having fun, a little friendly competition. You don't have to be familiar with the actual team names or the logos. Again, use the color to pick. Tell me you don't have a preference and I could pick the team for you if that's what you prefer. Do it however you want to do it. Fill your TBR and TBW, which is what I'm calling a to-be watch list, with freaking old movies. Fill it with new movies that have an old school flair or that are set in the past. Doesn't matter. Do what you want. This is all about you guys having the best time and all of us living our best freaking lives. Cause yes, bitch, it's gonna be a blast. Who's into this? Who's up for this? Let me know below. Please, please comment below because I am freaking hyped. I don't think I could get any more hyped. Disney Channel original movies, that's my jam. I'm so excited to watch some old school movies, some old school TV shows, some freaking old school cartoons from every freaking channel that I can think of. It doesn't matter. It's gonna be awesome. Can't wait to read some old books, some new books about old times, and, you know, etc., etc. I can't wait. I don't know why I'm dancing. Anyway, all right, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me through this long-ass announcement video. I thought it should be as thorough as possible. Stay tuned for the recommendation video that I'll have coming out soon, hopefully. And let me know if you have any specific questions about this readathon. I will try to help answer them. We also have an email address if you would rather email me your question. Email oldschoolapril@gmail.com, and I will try to get back to you, or leave the question in the comments below, or send it to us by DM on our official Instagram, or pose the question to us on our Discord channel. There's plenty of places to chat on the Discord and plenty of info on the Discord, so make sure you please, please, please join our Discord, which is linked below once again. And also don't forget to follow us on Instagram because we want to keep up with everybody and share everybody's fun posts. But don't forget, if you're using Instagram to prove your completion of prompts, make sure you message that specifically. Don't just post and tag. Message, message, message. Alright guys, that is enough nagging from me. This is about reliving nostalgia, not reliving mom's old school nagging, because I'm not going to be that naggy mom. I'm not even a mom, so I'm just like a big kid at heart. Alright guys, for this time, that is it for me. Till next time, guys, you know what you can do. Keep on killing it. And let's get ready to kick it old school. Woo! Bye, guys.